a tree, where there strung up a man, who they say he murdered 3. Strange things have happened there. No stranger would it be, if we met at midnight, in the hanging tree.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. I'm sitting at my desk, drinking the best coffee on Earth. Maybe the entire universe. I wonder, do aliens drink coffee? I found out what ancient Romans drank first thing in the morning, and boy am I glad I have coffee. Swing by 4501 McPherson or visit organicmancoffeetrike.shop and see if I know coffee. I listen to a lot of podcasts and I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Josh Turner on Paranormal Roundtable is one of my favorites. I see a few of his followers are now tuning into my show. It's not like you can only listen to one show. I listen to Southern Demonology with JJ, The Belief Hole with those 3 brothers, Tony Merkel on Confessionals, Brian Merkel, his dad, on Hammer Lane Legends. Also, you don't have to agree with every utterance coming from the host or the guest. Listen and see what other people have to say. It won't kill you. I was listening to Trailer Trash Terrors with Vic Hermanson, and he was talking about Quadro Tracker, a 9 large for a plastic box. That's the name of the show. It was episode 101 of Trailer Trash Terror Podcast. Vic dives deep into the weird world of the Quadro Tracker and similar devices. Schools, police departments, border patrol, and even armies across the globe have bought them, believing these devices can detect explosives, drugs, drug users, weapons, and essentially any other form of contraband. The FBI and Scotland Yard both say that these things are fraudulent, but the customers are happy. And in many cases, they're very happy. Tune in and listen to the show to find out what I'm talking about. But it was an incredible story. It wasn't the Quadro Tracker that got me to thinking about this show, but the story about a man using dowsing rods to find hidden underground cables and gas lines that caught my attention. My grandfather used dowsing rods way back when he was younger to find out where to put in a water well. If you follow the Curse of Oak Island, you'll know that Dan Blankenship used dowsing rods to find borehole 10X. My dad watched the news every night. He only watched, and that's the way it is, Walter Cronkite, because he told what was happening, not what he thought was what we should be told. My cat's going after my microphone now. During one of these nightly visits to the things going on in the world, there was a war correspondent. I doubt they still use that term. A reporter on the ground was showing a group of soldiers in Vietnam. They were using dowsing rods to find enemy tunnels. It was proving very successful. The rods would cross, the soldiers would dig down, and there would be a tunnel. How could this work? My dad wasn't into answering questions like, how do dowsing rods work? The reporter went on to other things, and the Army never came out with a statement one way or the other on the use of paranormal devices to find the enemy. course, my school teacher had nothing to add. As I grew up, I found out that researching things like this was near impossible. If the library didn't have a book on it, there was not much you could do. The internet was a kind of a godsend until all the people who believe their each and every thought needs to be hoisted in the air for all to bow down to. The fact checkers who mostly go by their personal opinions, the people who cut and paste other people's research and call it groundbreaking. Once the mega companies discovered they could force advertising onto every aspect of the internet by having bots that search for certain catchphrases and then attach their commercials to everything, the internet has turned into a product of the other guy. I did search for dowsing rods and found some really good information. Dowsing is a type of divination employed in attempts to locate groundwater, buried metals or ores, gemstones, oil, grave sites, earth vibrations, and many other objects and materials without the use of scientific apparatus. It is also called divining, doodle bugging when searching for petroleum or treasure, or water witching. The boys in the white lab coats all say the rods are actually responding to subtle movements of the dowser. Nothing to see here. Pay no attention to the man. Well, you get the idea. I have yet to see a group of scientists actually investigating how divining rods work. Their negative opinions would drive away any natural forces that might cause the rods to move. There's no way of performing a double blind study using rods. Dowsing rods are typically made from metal, such as copper or brass. They can also be made from other materials, such as wood or plastic. The original divining rods were a forked tree limb. The type of material that dowsing rods are made of is not that important, as long as they're able to resonate to your frequency. The rods are only one part of the whole event. The person doing the dowsing has to be of the right mindset and physically capable. Now, this has nothing to do with being able to walk and hold the rods. It has something to do with how you are connected to the earth. If the person doing the divining is finding interference, the thing to do is to remove your shoes and socks, walk back and forth over the ground, thus clearing your mind and body. We call this grounding. It's like how electricity only works if you have a positive and a negative, or a ground wire. The energy has to come into your body and then flow back out. You can buy a set of dowsing rods anywhere from $10 to $75, depending on how fancy you want to get. You want a handy dandy little wooden carrying case that you can store them in when you're not using. Just depends on what you're looking for. You can use dowsing rods to find water or to contact a ghost. The process is pretty much the same as using a pendulum. You tell the spirits if they want to say yes to cross the rods. If it's a pendulum, you ask the device to show you yes and then show you no before starting the session. If you think this is all just hooey, why are you listening to my show in the first place? The rods are held out in front of the dowser, and they walk over the area that they believe may contain water. If there is water present, the rods will spontaneously cross, or if it's a Y-shaped stick, the stick will suddenly jerk downwards. Your thoughts are important when dowsing. If you believe you might find water, well, you might find water. If you're looking for a tunnel, you might find a tunnel. Just walking back and forth holding the rods will buy you nothing. Walking around thinking about what you're going to eat once you finish will also not work. You must focus on the thing that you're searching for. One site I visited said to keep your mind completely blank, or at least don't think about the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Keep your mind Keep your mind clear of any expectations and simply allow the rods to do what they're going to do. The trouble with this concept is if you're looking for water, you're liable to find a tunnel or a buried uh, electric cable or something that you're not looking for. The skeptics seem to be running the internet right now. Most sites I visited went into great detail on why dowsing was just a physiological response to the person holding the rods to a kind of a scam because the person using the rods had inside knowledge of the location of the sought after items before starting. They all aim to make people think that dowsing was just nonsense, and only the white coated crew knew how things worked. I would say about 90% of the sites were very negative about dowsing or pendulums or anything like that. I use a pendulum during ghost hunts. They're small and you can put it in your pocket and you can actually forget that it's even in there, which is a problem when you have a ghost hunting vest like those of us on LPRS. You put something in this pocket, you put something in that pocket, you put something in the other pocket. The vest has, I don't know how many pockets. And then it's like, okay, where's, I can't find my pendulum, I can't find my mirror, I can't find whatever it is that you think you put in your pocket. Well, pendulum responds to energy coming up from the ground. It also responds to other things, like the person using it. I hold my pendulum over my dog's head, and it swung around in a fast circle. I tried the same thing with one of my cats, but they tried to eat the weight. I have had issues with modern technology at ghost hunts for some time now, and I had no idea why. Until I was listening to Christopher Garetano, his show Off to the Witch. The show was called Fairy, Fairies Wear Boots, which was an Ozzy Osbourne Black Sabbath reference. He was talking about ghost hunting shows and how they all follow the same script. This was when I had an aha moment. Every ghost hunting show has the mass of electronic gear that must be used on each and every show. They might be investigating a one room cabin. They drag out the SLS camera. There's an EMF detector in each corner. They put an IR camera on the porch and a UV camera in the window. They have 6 RIM pods scattered about the place. And all of these electronic gadgets have to go off so the hosts can run around acting as if there's a ghost in the room. Gadget overload. Too many devices, and they rely on them like air that we breathe. It gets to a point where every single show has to have $3,000 or $4,000 worth of electronic devices, and the people doing the actual investigation, all they're doing is looking at electronic gadgets. I am not a Luddite. I just tired of all the gadget overload. Now keep in mind these are tools that should be used when needed. It's like I don't walk around at a spooky location holding the pendulum out in front of me all the time that I'm there. Only when I think there might be something there. Or I get a creepy feeling, or maybe one of the EMF detectors goes off and the guy standing next to me thinks there might be something. Then I'll pull the pendulum out and use it. By accident, I was talking about one of my books, and as I was talking, I mentioned about a pendulum, and I took my pendulum out to show it to the person standing in front of me. The pendulum began to swing as it passed over my nonfiction book. I thought this was odd, so I got one of my fictional books and I tried holding the pendulum over it. Nothing. I moved back over the nonfiction book and I got an immediate response. A pendulum can be made from just about anything. I have one that's made out of wood, I have one that's brass, and I have another one that's copper. They all work the same. I've had people tell me that only wooden pendulums work, and they just happen to be selling wooden pendulums. I had another person who was extolling the virtues of meteorites for pendulums, and yes, she was selling meteorite pendulums. There is a $220 pendulum for sale on Amazon. Well, they also have a $2 pendulum. I guess it depends on who you're trying to impress. I paid about $10 each for mine. Why do I have three? Well, because I don't have four. I just liked the way each one of them looked. They all work exactly the same. To use a pendulum, there are some things you need to do before heading out to find something. First, you hold the pendulum out and ask it to show you yes, followed by show me no. Each pendulum is slightly different. I have one that yes is a circle. Another one, yes, is simply back and forth. No is an oval with the first pendulum, and no is a lopsided oval with the second. Once you know how to communicate with the device in hand, you can use it to ask questions. I tell folks this is an old style EMF detector. No batteries required. I find my pendulum is about as effective as the new gadgets. I also carry a folding mirror for sideways ghost views. If you're going to try scrying, don't look over your shoulder. Look to your side. If you see something, you can just glance sideways to see if you're actually seeing something real or ethereal. If it's standing behind you, you might just run for the exit before realizing that one of your teammates simply walked up behind you. Getting back to the pendulum, you can use them to find underground water sources as well. You hold the pendulum as steady as you can. Think of water and walk back and forth. The device will swing either back and forth in a circle or an oval when you're over the wet stuff, depending on which pendulum you use. My wife and I did a question and answer session one time. We wrote out a few names, each on a separate piece of paper. Nobody that we wanted to stay in contact with, and of course, no relatives, just people in the news. We would hold the pendulum over one of the names and ask, is this person decent? It was amazing how the responses went. Uh, One or two people that I would have sworn were in league with Old Scratch himself came out as being okay folks. One or two I considered to be decent had bad responses. We were careful what we asked. Is this person good? Are they decent? Nothing like, is this person in league with the devil? There are some things you don't want to ask, like, am I going to die? Of course, you're going to die eventually. We all will. Don't ask for answers that you can't live with. Once you've been told an answer, you can't get rid of it. even allowing for the pendulum being just a bunch of nonsense. The idea that your days are numbered will cause you to get nervous, which will cause you to act differently, and this could lead to you doing something that will get you killed. Let's say the question you ask is, will I live for 50 more years? And the answer is yes. You might decide now is the time to take up skydiving or bungee jumping, only to discover that your change in activities could lead to a sudden and very short life. Just because you're told something is going to happen, it's a maybe. It's the same thing with fortune telling. They tell you you're going to meet the love of your life, and then you walk into the coffee shop and you discover you really love coffee. Not every answer coming through the pendulum is correct. Sometimes things interfere with the answers. Things get mixed up. You ask questions only to discover that you're standing on a ley line. One time on a ghost hunt, we thought we had something, only to find out there was an electric panel on the other side of the wall that was giving off a whole lot of energy. That's what everything was responding to. I mentioned using a mirror on ghost hunts. Now, this is known as scrying. Mirrors have all kinds of magical connotations. Mirrors can be a way to see yourself as you comb your hair and shave. You might get a better look at yourself seeing things you didn't notice. Some say that you can give yourself healing energy and love, and you can even use it to see your past life. Reflective services have been used for millennia for magic of all kinds, including scrying and seeing the truth of a situation. They were thought by some to be portals, similar to Alice through the looking glass. If you're feeling drained, try, you're just tired from your day to day life, yet it's not quite time for bed yet. Try this. Gaze at your reflection, looking back at you from the mirror. Empty your mind and allow your consciousness to kind of drift. Now, think to yourself, you really like the person looking back at you. Send energy into the reflection as you stand there, feeling energy building inside yourself. To some folks, this is a real means of energizing themselves. Some people believe the image in the mirror might be from some other dimension. The creature looking out at you is there to take over your body and use it for their own purposes. If they're right, you might not want to send energy to this reflection. It just depends on which kind of mirror you're looking into, I guess. Mirror magic can also be used to enhance your appearance. Look at your reflection and think to yourself that the image you see is really great. Think to yourself you look younger and less worn. Kind of like the glamour shots places. Remember those? You don't see those anymore, do you? You say to yourself you look desirable to others. These changes are said to only last a short time, like before getting your photo taken or just before meeting someone. Have you ever met someone and you thought, man, that person really looks sharp. They really look attractive. And then after you've been with them for about 10 minutes, you're like, what was I thinking? They don't look that good. Could this have been mirror magic? The effects will vanish, making you look as you did before the mirror trick. I don't know if this actually works or not. I use my mirrors to shave and look for ghosts, and that's about it. If you stare at yourself in the mirror, right in the eyes, you might see things from your past, things from a few lifetimes ago. This is a form of past life experiences being viewed through the reflection of your own eyes. I've tried past life regression. I saw myself as a shepherd in an old shack in the middle of nowhere. Nothing fancy, no connection to famous battles or historical figures. Maybe I just imagined the whole thing. The music and the hypnotic sound of the voice put me into a dream. I don't know, but it sure seemed real to me. They say if you do use a mirror to either make yourself look better or re energize yourself, you can keep this facade by holding a small hand mirror, like a compact mirror, up to the bigger mirror while you're convincing yourself that you look better. For women, this might work out okay, but for us guys, well, we'd look kind of weird checking our lack of makeup in a hand mirror. Of course, I do carry that mirror, but it's only for ghost hunting. If you get a chance and you try mirror magic, let me know if it worked for you or not. Some people swear by it, while others think it's all just a bunch of hocus pocus. Using a mirror to get from here to there. Mirrors have been associated with portals for thousands of years. Some cultures believe if a person dies in a home, all the mirrors have to be covered or the spirit might become trapped when it tries to exit this plane of existence to the next, thinking that the mirror is the place to go. This is said to have happened at the Myrtles plantation. You can see somebody looking out from the glass as if they're trying to escape. The bigger the mirror, the less I like it. Floor mirrors that reach up to eye level are just plain scary. If it looks more like a doorway, it just might be. This is when dowsing rods or pendulums can be used. Walk towards the mirror, holding the rods as recommended. As you get close to the reflective surface, if the rods swing together, you just might want to get rid of that thing. The same with pendulums, they'll swing faster as you get closer. Yes, I tested my mirrors. I took the pendulum and I held it in front of myself as I walked to the mirror just to be on the safe side. My mirrors are just mirrors. The Romans believed that life renewed itself every 7 years. Damaging a mirror was tantamount to damaging your health, therefore, brought about calamity that would not resolve itself for the next 7 year cycle. That's where the 7 years of bad luck comes from. It's just a rock. Well, it's a crystal. I have a crystal. It's about 2 inches long and 1 inch wide. I carry it in my pocket to all ghost or UFO investigations. An old woman gave it to my wife, telling her that I needed to carry the crystal any time I was in a nasty environment. At the time, we were doing a lot of jail shakedowns. I hated those missions. We had to search the entire cell block. You find things that you wish you could forget, that which has been seen. The woman said that once I was home, I should soak the crystal overnight in sea salt and water. I've had that gemstone for over 20 years now. I've carried it into jails, old haunted hospitals, old haunted jails, all kinds of nasty places where something might try to attach itself to me for a free ride home. As far as I can tell, nothing has followed me home yet. What is surprising is the old lady that gave my wife that crystal didn't know me. She didn't know what I did for a living. She knew my wife because of her cosmetics. She was just at this woman's house one day delivering some stuff, and the old lady popped out with this crystal and told her that I needed to have it. It's It's a very nice crystal. Is the crystal actually working? I don't know. The only way I can find out is to stop carrying it and see how things go. That's not going to happen. I figure it's like covering all my bets. Like this guy I met one time, he had a cross, a Mogan David, and a crescent hanging from chains around his neck. He was hoping one of these religious symbols would ward off whatever was out there. Is he super protected? Or will the different symbols cancel each other out? I keep an 8 in my wallet, just the number 8. It's been there ever since hearing Glennis McCants on Coast to Coast. She said that if you wanted to always have some money, put a number 8 in your wallet or your purse. Since then, I've never been broke. I've never been rich, but there's always a few bucks in my wallet. One day I'd given my last few dollars to my wife. They were having a collection for one of the teachers at work. I walked my dog to the park and then I walked back home. I found a $50 bill laying in the gutter near my house. It was about an hour since I'd given all my money away. Was that the number 8 acting up or something else? Another time, I received an unexpected check for $150 from some company that had found out they had overcharged me several years earlier. Just money out of the blue. At the time, I had just happened to have used all my cash to buy dog food, and I think I only had like $1 or $2 left, and then I had 150. Glenn has said you could only use one number. If you placed several eights in your wallet, they would cancel each other out. Give it a try. See what happens. Of all the numbers in numerology, the number 8 is the achiever and the measures life by the goals that it reaches. The number 8 is also the symbol of balance. You can see this as its symmetrical shape. For every blessing it receives, it puts one back out to the universe. When things are balanced, they feel stable, control, and supported, which is the most productive environment for the 8 to work in. In Chinese culture, the number 8 is considered the luckiest number of all and is purposefully worked into wedding dates, birth dates, addresses, and finances. Even in the world of numerology, there are people who have been known to change their names in order to add more eights to their numerological chart, hoping to emulate this number's level of accomplishments. The 8 represents an ultimate form of achievement that many will spend their entire lives striving for. Now, like I said, give it a try and see what happens, and then let me know if you have any good results. Speaking of numbers, here's one that some of y'all should recognize. In ancient Egypt mythology, during the judgment of souls, the dead had to declare before 42 judges that they had not committed any of the 42 sins. The marathon distance of 42.95 kilometers corresponds to the length of how far the ancient Greek messenger Phidippides traveled between Marathon and Athens before announcing Nike, which means victory, that over the Persians in 490 BC. The kilometer had not been defined at this time. Ancient Tibet had 42 rulers. Nyatri Senpo, who reigned from 127 BC, was the first. Langdharma, who ruled from 836 to 842 AD, was the 42nd ruler, and this was the 42nd year of the 9th century. Gutenberg Bible, the first book printed in Europe, has 42 lines of text per column and is also called the 42-line Bible. According to a March 6th Economist blog post marking the 42nd anniversary of the radio program, The Hitcher's Guide to the Galaxy, which preceded the novel, the 42nd anniversary of anything is rarely observed. Douglas Adams chose the number 42 at random. He had no idea that it had any kind of meaning. It was just a number. The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything actually has some meaning. A few more things about the number 42. Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, died at age 42. They had 42 grandchildren, and their great grandson, Edward VIII, abdicated at the age of 42. On page 42 of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Harry discovers that he's a wizard. The Doctor Who episode titled 42 lasted for 42 minutes. The Titanic was traveling at a speed equivalent to 42 kilometers per hour when it hit the iceberg. In East Asia, including parts of China, tall buildings often avoid having a 42nd floor because of tetraphobia, a fear of the number 4 because the word for and death sound the same. Elvis Presley is supposed to have died at age 42. At least that's what they say. Or him and Jim Morrison are still hiding out somewhere. Buzz Lightyear's Starship was named 42. Fox Mulder's apartment on The X-Files was number 42. The youngest president of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, was 42 when he was elected. The Bell X-1 rocket, the glamorous Glennis, piloted by Chuck Yeager, first broke the sound barrier at 42,000 feet. Cricket has 42 rules. On page 42 of Bram Stoker's Dracula, Jonathan Harker discovers that he is a prisoner of a vampire. And on page 42 of Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein reveals that he's able to create life. The 3 best-selling music albums, Michael Jackson's Thriller, AC/DC's Back in Black, and Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon, all are 42 minutes long. The Type 42 vacuum tube was one of the most popular audio output amplifiers of the 30s. Cell 42 on Alcatraz Island was once home to Robert Stroud, who was transferred to the Rock in 1942. After murdering a guard, he spent 42 years in solitary confinement in different prisons. In the book of Revelations, it is prophesied that the beast will hold dominion over the earth for 42 months. Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland has 42 illustrations. There are 42 U.S. gallons in a barrel of oil. There are 42 principles of Maat, the ancient Egyptian goddess of physical and moral law, order, and truth. The band Level 42 chose their name in recognition of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It is really just a number, or is there something to the number 42? For the Mayans, 13 was a sacred number representing completion, as evidenced by their calendar system. In their cosmology, the Egyptians perceived life as a journey of 12 stages, with the 13th stage signifying the afterlife and transformation. In the ancient city of Babylon, the code of Hammurabi skipped number 13, indicating an early superstition surrounding it. There were 12 apostles, being led by Jesus, which would add up to 13. At one time, there were 13 signs of the zodiac. Ophiuchus is one of the, is that how it's said? Ophiuchus? I think that's it. Is one of the constellations in the equatorial zone. Looking from the Earth, you will find it south of Hercules, north of Scorpio and Sagittarius. It is the only constellation which connects with another constellation, Serpens, the only one spanning the celestial equator, galactic equator, and ecliptic. Ptolemy, known as the father of modern astrology, who lived from 100 to 170 AD, put out an ultimatum that has echoed on for thousands of years. The fixed calendar would be implemented, despite the precession of the equinoxes and the movement of the sun through the constellation of Ophiuchus. To include Ophiuchus would offset the perfect balance and symmetry of the celestial calendar. So the 13th sign was removed to allow the calendar to work, which it turned out that it didn't. Ophiuchus represents the serpent bearer and falls into the late degree of Scorpio and early degrees of Sagittarius. Ophiuchus was known as a great healer and intellectual. Some say the number 13 is lucky. Mary Kay Ash, the founder of the International Makeup Company, signed the paperwork at the bank to start her company on Friday the 13th. Her office was on the 13th floor of her headquarters. 13 is a prime number. It can only be divided by itself. It is a complete number. The number 13 is the symbol of totality, completion, and attainment. In ancient Greece, Zeus was the 13th god who also became the head of all the gods. The number became known as an incorruptible number. In Thailand, they celebrate the new year on April 13th. The 13th day of each month is an extremely auspicious day according to Hinduism. 13th day in Triyodashi, it's a Hindu word, I believe, Triyodashi, and is dedicated to the Lord Shiva. The Pradesh Vrat observed in honor of Lord Shiva usually falls on the 13th day of each month. The people who worship Lord Shiva on this day are blessed with wealth, children, happiness, and prosperity. The 13th is considered one of the most fruitful days of the month according to Hindu beliefs. Maha Shivaratri is also celebrated on the 13th night of the Magha month, which is considered very sacred and holy. Only Western cultures consider the 13 to be unlucky. Why is a matter of who you listen to. Folks have all kinds of pet theories as to when and why the number 13 became feared. At the Last Supper, there were 13 people in attendance. Tradition has held that the 13th person to take his seat was either Judas or Jesus. We don't actually have a seating list. We don't even know that there were only 13 people there. There might have been more, just because of that one painting with 13 people in it. That doesn't mean that Leonardo da Vinci knew. One of the great controversies surrounding the Last Supper is whether or not it was on Passover. John seemed to suggest that the meal was eaten the day before Passover. which has led some scholars to date the Last Supper to the 13th of Nisan, which others say that the crucifixion was on the 13th. According to historian Vincent Hooper, one of the people who really pushed 13 as being an unlucky number, he was a 16th century numerologist. Oh, sorry, no, it was Petrus Bungus was the 16th century numerologist. Bungus said that the Jews murmured 13 times against God during the Exodus from Egypt, that the 13th Psalms concerns wickedness and corruption, and that the circumcision of Israel occurred in the 13th year. According to popular lore, there are 13 steps leading up to the gallows. Way back when folks were being hung a lot, the people building the gallows seldom had any kind of a plan. Some were just a wooden platform to stand on before the floor falls out from under you. On occasion, the platform was just high enough so that the folks there to be entertained could see the soon to be executed. Also, the hangman's knot, the one used here in the United States, was supposed to have 13 coils designed to break a person's neck. This is also not correct. Most hangman's knots have 8 coils. Gallows actually varied widely, but even then the number was often brought up as being 13. A park ranger at Smith Historic Park said there were 13 steps on the gallows, 12 up and 1 down. The Knights Templar, who are widely believed to be protecting the Holy Grail, as well as a lot of other religious holy objects, also acted as the first international banking system to European knights and kings. People traveling to Jerusalem had to carry all the gold and the jewelry that they thought they might need. Anything that might be needed bought, like food or maybe lodging or anything like that, well, you had to do it in cash. There were no credit cards, there were no checkbooks. If you wanted to stay at somebody's inn for the night, you had to pay up front. If you wanted to buy food, clothing, anything, it was always cash in hand. This made them open to robbery. Every caravan passing through the area was an open invitation to attack. The Templars came up with a system where a knight or a king or somebody like that would place their valuables in a European vault, and then they would receive a letter saying that they had so much gold or silver back home. The letter was written in a code that nobody could understand except for the Templars. Once the caravan arrived in Jerusalem, the knight or the king would go to a Templar stronghold and hand over the note. It was exchanged for the gold and silver minus a small transaction fee. Charging interest was known as usury, and this was illegal. The Templars charged rent on their stronghold space. King Philip IV of France was deep in debt to the Templars after a few failed wars and some really bad investments. He conspired with Pope Clement V to have all the members of the Knights Templar arrested, charged with Satanism and other crimes. They were tortured and executed. The arrest of the Knights Templar began in earnest on Friday, October 13th, 1307. A coven is a group of witches. It was once believed that a coven was made up of 13 members. This was considered to be a play on Jesus and his 12 disciples, apostles. I always get those two confused. The 12 apostles, disciples, anybody that follows. There's an old superstition that says if you have 13 letters in your name, you're bound to be cursed. You might think this is just an old wives' tale until you consider that a number of notorious murderers such as Charles Manson, Jack the Ripper, Jeffrey Dahmer, Theodore Bundy, Albert DeSalvo, all contain 13 letters. Adolf Hitler's baptismal name was Adolphus Hitler. The trouble with his name is Adolf, when he was very young, his last name was Schickelgruber. His dad thought that this sounded way too Jewish, and so he changed the last name to Heidler. So Adolphus Heidler has 14 letters. Well, Friday the 13th, it is an expensive day for many businesses. One analyst says that around $1 billion a year is lost as people choose not to do business on a Friday the 13th. The ancient Persians divided history into 4 sessions of 3,000 years each. Although the exact time frame can vary, some scholars feel that at the beginning of the 13,000 years there will be chaos as evil mounts a great battle against good. And of course, don't forget about Apollo 13. I'm not superstitious, I'm cautious. I don't believe in risking things that you don't have to. On Friday the 13th, I tend to be a bit, as in a lot, more cautious. I've lived through several dozen Friday the 13th, and on many of these days, things went sideways. In Mexico, they have Tuesday the 13th. My wife got super sick winding up in the hospital on Tuesday the 13th. This has also led us to being a bit more careful on certain dates. Martis, or Tuesday, is named after Mars, the god of war. Some say that Tuesday the 13th became the day of bad luck because of the fall of the Roman Empire in Constantinople was on Tuesday the 13th, May 1453. To ward off bad luck, some folks carry good luck charms. One well-known charm is a rabbit's foot. Now you can't just go kill some poor rabbit and chop off one of his feet and think that this is going to help you win the lottery. The rabbit, as well as the foot, and the place that it is obtained, all have to be done correctly. The person harvesting the foot is supposed to be cross-eyed and a male. The rabbit is supposed to be shot in a cemetery. It is supposed to be either on a full moon or a new moon, and the rabbit has to be killed on a Friday. Even though a rabbit has 4 feet, only the left rear foot is to be used as a charm. Some people say the rabbit's foot was a replacement for the original good luck appendage known as the Hand of Glory. Back when things were rotten, some criminals were hung at a crossroads, the idea being that his ghost would be confused and not able to find his way back to haunt those that had executed him. The body was left to work as a warning to others. The next town takes their laws seriously. The left hand from the body of a murderer, some fat, and some hair, is used to create a hand of glory. The hand is either placed with the fingers shaped into a fist or extended. It is dried out so that it stays in this position. The fat is rendered down into tallow. Hair from the criminal is braided into a wick, which is soaked in tallow. This wick is inserted between the fingers. Now, the person using this hand is also somewhat of a criminal because the hand is used to freeze people in their beds at night while illuminating the house. Only the person holding the hand will be able to see the light. This is a means of robbing a house without anybody seeing you. Another use for the hand of glory is to find hidden treasure. The person using the hand goes to an area known for hidden goodies. He or she lights the candle, and it's supposed to illuminate the ground where the treasure is to be found. As time moved on, the left hand from a murderer was changed to the left foot of a rabbit. I wonder if Rick and Marty have ever considered visiting the local Canadian prison. Just a thought. Farmers sometimes do they even have the capital punishment in Canada anymore? Farmers sometimes will nail a horseshoe over the door to their barn. The shoe is positioned so that the back of the shoe, that's the open part, is upwards. The shoe is supposed to catch luck and hold it so that the barn and all inside will be protected. If for some reason some of the nails come out and the shoe turns over, allowing the luck to fall out, the barn is going to become dangerous and should no longer be used. Renailing the shoe doesn't work. Once the luck has fallen out, it cannot be replaced. In India, it's considered good luck to enter your new home by stepping in with the right foot first. The right side is spiritual, while the left is materialistic. They also believe it is a good idea to throw away the broom used in the last house because it will carry all the negativity with it. A new broom sweeps clean, as some will say, even here in the U.S. In some cultures, finding a snake inside your home is considered lucky. This will bring you either good fortune or a long life. I bought a house here in Laredo right after I passed my 10-month test. Once I knew I was going to still have a job, I needed to get out of that horrible apartment I was living in. The rent on a one-bedroom apartment was higher than my first house payments. When we got married, my wife moved in the next morning. I found a small corn snake in our dining room. How it got there, I have no idea. I showed it to my wife before carrying it out across the street and letting it go in a vacant lot. When we moved to our current home, the one I'm in right now, guess what? We found a snake in this house as well. A garter snake. This is one of those unexplained things that happens as you go through life. Does this mean that me and my wife will have long lives or be extremely lucky? I don't know. Won't know until we get to the end. I drive a green vehicle, a green pickup, a green Honda Ridgeline. It's dark green and it has nothing to do with EVs. It turns out a green vehicle is considered to be unlucky by some folks. The color is supposed to attract the ire of the fairies, the fae folk. This is their color, and us mortals aren't supposed to wear it or ride around in it. It is also associated to money, which leads to greed, one of the 10 deadly sins. The big question I keep coming up with is, how do these things work? Do good luck charms actually help? What makes a pendulum swing around or dowsing rods move? I believe the energy that flows all around us is connecting with the pendulum or the rods, causing them to move. However, why do they respond to what we are thinking about at the same time? People looking for water don't accidentally find tunnels. People looking for tunnels don't accidentally find buried cables. My pendulum will swing around if I hold it over certain items. Nonfiction books, my dogs. The cats will try to eat it, of course. I was walking around my home the other day using the pendulum over all kinds of things. Fresh fruit and vegetables all gave me a circle. I tried it over a K cup and barely got a response at all. When I tried the container of fresh coffee beans, I got a very fast yes. I tried holding my pendulum over a container of batteries. Nothing. I also tried a battery charger that I use for my drills. Still nothing happened. Even though there was energy in the batteries and energy in the charger, I got zip. My computer and my cell phone also showed nothing. Why? I don't know. But if I hold it over fresh fruit or my dog, I get a response. Some people can hold a pendulum or a dowsing rods and have zero outcome. Nothing happens for them. There's something else going on, something to do with both the item being used and the person using it. I would say that belief has a lot to do with things. I expect my gadgets to work in certain places. I also know to hold my hand as steady as I can so I don't cause a reaction. I've been doing this for some time now. Now, how about good luck charms? There are folks out there who swear their charm has some effect on their lives. I know people who have a lucky coin. They won't go anywhere without it. A religious charm that they either wear around their necks or they have in their purse or their wallet. Do these charms actually work? Is there some connection to angels because you have a charm that you avoid bad luck? Does a person's belief in the charm have more to do with it than the outside energy? I absolutely detest those emails that say that if I'll forward this page to a dozen people, I will be blessed by either Jesus or Buddha or some other being. I send those all to the trash. I doubt very seriously that Jesus or Buddha pays much attention to emails. As you go through life believing there are unseen entities following you around, ready to intercede in the events or something bad happening, does this make you more relaxed? And by relieving stress, it makes your life better. The only way to see if these charms work is to stop using them and see if your luck goes south. Well, I don't recommend anyone do that. If you believe your lucky charm is keeping you safe, then keep carrying it. If you believe that a pendulum can answer your questions, by all means use one. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. If you would like to support the show, go to Amazon and buy one of my books, Laredo Paranormal Research Society, Fort McIntosh, and the Paranormal, Paranormal Laredo, and Paranormal Stories. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell people you don't even like. They should be listening to the show as well. And until next time, this is Chris James for Strange Things.
Are you coming to the tree where there's strung up a man who they say he murdered 3? Strange things have happened there. No stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.